यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजना यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजना यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजना यमुना तीरा वनचारी यमुना तीरा वनचारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 रामा राम राम हरे हरे कृष्णा कृष्णा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 रामा राम राम हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 रामा राम राम हरे हरे जय राधा गोविंद राधे जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय प्रभुपाद नीताय गौर हरि बोल गौर हरि बोल जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य स्तोत्र शतशी श्रीमद् डिवाइन ग्रेस अभय चरणारविंद भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी शील प्रभुपाद की अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की नामाचार्य शील हरिदास ठाकुर की प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की ब्रजभूमि श्री वृंदावन धाम की मायापुर नवद्वीप धाम की पुरुषोत्तम क्षेत्र श्री जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की गंगा मैया यमुना मैया की भक्ति देवी तुलसी महारानी की समवेत गौर भक्त वृंद की ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे all glories to assembled devotees all glories to assembled devotees all glories to assembled devotees all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna, we are reading from Canto 3, Chapter 21, entitled Conversation between Manu and Kardama. Text 51. Yorkendva Agnindravai. Okay, let me see. Yorkendvagnindravaayunam Yamadharma Prachetasam Rupani Sthana Adatse Tasmai Shuklayate Namaha. Yorkendvagnindravaayunam Yamadharma Prachetasam Rupani Sthana Adatse Tasmai Shuklayate Namaha. Yorkendvagnindravaayunam Yamadharma Prachetasam Rupani Sthana Adatse Tasmai Shuklayate Namaha. Yorkendvagnindravaayunam Yamadharma Prachetasam Rupani Sthana Adatse Tasmai Shuklayate Namaha. Yorkendvagnindravaayunam Yamadharma Prachetasam Rupani Sthana Adatse Tasmai Shuklayate Namaha. Okay. Word to word. Yaha. You who. Arka of the sun. Indu of the moon. Agni of Agni, the fire god. Indra of Indra, the lord of heaven. Vayunam of Vayu, the wind god. Yama of Yama, the god of punishment. Dharma of Dharma, the god of piety. Prachetasam and of Varuna, the god of the waters. Rupani, the forms. Sthane, when necessary. Adatse, you assume. Tasmai, unto him. Shuklaya, unto Lord Vishnu. Te, unto you. Namaha, obeisances. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. You assume, when necessary, the part of the sun god, the moon god, Agni, the god of fire, Indra, the lord of paradise, Vayu, the wind god, Yama, the god of punishment, Dharma, the god of piety, and Varuna, the god presiding over the waters. All obeisances to you who are none other than Lord Vishnu. Purport. Since the sage Kardama was a Brahmana and Swayambhuva was a Kshatriya, the sage was not supposed to offer obeisances to the king because socially his position was greater than the king's. But he offered his obeisances to Swayambhuva Manu because as Manu, king and emperor, he was a representative of the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord is always worshipable, regardless of whether one is a Brahmana, a Kshatriya, or a Shudra. As a representative of the Supreme Lord, the king deserved respectful obeisances from everyone. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Hare Krishna. Before I begin, I would like to seek the blessings of His Holiness Chandrasekhar Maharaj and all the assembled Vaishnavas so that I can speak something worthwhile. Harivilas Prabhu was supposed to speak, but since Prabhu didn't come down, we are going to attempt something. Hopefully there will be some message which is in parampara and not from my mental speculation. So here we see Kardama Muni is actually in conversation with Swayambhuva Manu. He's actually glorifying Swayambhuva Manu and he's saying, actually, you yourself are as good as sun god. You yourself are as good as the moon god, Indra, the fire god, the wind god, the god of punishment, the god of righteousness, of piety. So basically he's glorifying Swayambhuva Manu to a position which, for example, if you go to a police department and start glorifying the constable as the deputy commissioner or something, he will feel embarrassed because he knows that I am not that great. But at the same time, one can actually give respect to the constable because he is representing the police department. So similarly, Swayambhuva Manu is not, though Kardama Muni is actually telling that you are as good as all these different gods, and even the last sentence is even more bewildering. All obeisances to you who are none other than Lord Vishnu. So, of course, Kardama Muni is saying in the mood that you are actually representing Lord Vishnu. So therefore, the king in the Vedic times would be known as Naradeva. Naradeva means the god for the humans. Why they would be called as Naradeva? Because he's actually representing the supreme Deva, that is Lord Vishnu. So here we also see Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport, that Kardama was a Brahmana and Swayambhuva Manu was a Kshatriya. Sage was not supposed to offer obeisances to the king because socially his position was greater than the king's. So we all know Chaturvarnya Maya Shishtam. Krishna says, I have created this caste system. That means Varna and Ashrama. In Varnas, Brahmana is supposedly the higher because he actually gives direction and vision. And accordingly, the kings act out. So you can consider king to be as mode of passion. Mode of passion means like flood. like water body which actually can flood the entire city. Uncontrolled water body. It can cause devastation. It can cause havoc, chaos, ruin lives, ruin farmlands, ruin so many things. Basically, it creates destruction. That is uncontrolled water body. That is like the king, passion. Whereas you see, goodness is a controlled water body. What is the benefit between controlled and uncontrolled water body? The controlled water body we can harness energy out of a controlled water body by structuring dams. We get energy out of it. Whereas you allow the water to just flow, it only creates destruction. Similarly, in the Vedic times, the conception of Brahmana being over or superior to Kshatriya was in the sense that Brahmana is visionary, whereas Kshatriya is actually, he can act out. His administration, he represents administration. So therefore, when Brahmana and Kshatriya come together, or we can say, when a king who rules over his citizens is actually being directed by the Brahmanical committee, then that king can actually do good to the society. So therefore, example after example, story after story, Srimad Bhāgavatam explains that how in the Vedic times, King Yudhishthir, he had a guru. Of course, for him, the Pandavas also had a guru, and of course they were taking direct guidance from Krishna. You will see King Anga had a committee of Brahmanas under whom he would work. Similarly, you will find King Chitraketu. He would actually very often invite all the Rishi Munis to his palace and seek guidance. And even in the contemporary times, you will find King Chandragupta Maurya, who actually produced the largest empire called the Mauryan Empire. He was being directed by the great politician and sage Chanakya. Similarly, Krishnadeva who had a society, he had many sages and saints living in the community and who were helping him making decisions. King Shivaji in Maharashtra, who was one of the foremost warriors in Indian history, he too was being guided by Ramdas and Tukaram. And also Akbar was guided by Birbal, isn't it? So you find this is called as Raja Rishi. Why? Because we all have passion. But when that passion is guided by goodness, it leads to productivity. When passion is not guided by goodness, it leads to destruction. Sometimes myself, as well as when some students come to me, they express, Prabhu, I have spent whole day trying to do so many things, but at the end of the day I found that actually my productivity was zero or efficiency was very minimal. That means it looked like I'm doing a lot of things, but actually I didn't achieve anything throughout the day. So similarly, we can run around pillar to post, we can run around from fifth floor to ground floor, we can do a lot of things, but sometimes it may so happen that we are not able to achieve anything. We are not able to get the service done. That's because passion drives us around. But goodness can give us direction and get the task done. So, therefore, this concept of Raja Rishi is very important. And Kardama Muni is glorifying Swayambhuv Manu, and I'm not sure, I think first already Swayambhuv Manu has glorified Kardama by now. Isn't it? Yeah. So this is the right platform of how appreciative each of the class of people should be towards others. That means a Brahmana should be appreciative to the other classes. Kshatriya should be appreciative to the Brahmana and other classes. They should not be, for example, here Kardama and Swayambhuv Manu are glorifying one another. On the contrary, you will find when in the first canto, when King Parikshit, by the will of providence, happened to garland sage Shamik with a dead snake. That time his son, a foolish, immature boy, he actually cursed the king of the world, King Parikshit, to die in 7 days. Why? Because he felt King Parikshit is a Kshatriya lower than the Brahminical class. So how dare King Parikshit come to my father's home and insult him like this? See? So therefore, the actual Vedic, of course, it is said from there the fall down of the Brahminical class began, from Shringi. So therefore, in the Vedic times, we find the classes were appreciative of one another. And similarly, in a society of Vaishnavas, as Sri Prabhupada says, it doesn't matter if one is a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. If someone is representing the Supreme Lord, he has to be respected. Aradhananam sarvesham Vishnu Aradhanam param tasmat paratanam devi tadiyanam samarchanam. In one of the Purana, it is said, Lord Shiva is telling Parvati, my dear Parvati, the worship of Lord Vishnu is considered to be the best among all kinds of worship. And after saying this, he adds, but better than this is the worship of his devotees. Tadiyanam samarchanam. Tadiya means his paraphernalia, or actually the devotee, the topmost paraphernalia. So therefore, anyone who represents the Supreme Lord has to be respected. Sometimes it may be so, a question may arise, should we respect the devotees of other sampradayas? Yes, we should. Should we respect the saintly people who are not part of ISKCON? Yes, we should. We should be very appreciative. We should actually bow down to them. We should respect them, offer respect, in different kinds. As it mentioned in 4th canto, be hospitable and give fruits and kind words, etc., etc. So all this respect should be given to any Vaishnava. Because Vaishnava means his relationship is with Krishna, not with the organization. Nonetheless, we associate with people of our organization. That is important. Otherwise, it will be a little tough to handle. So therefore, Karda Muni is, Sri Prabhupada is saying in the purport that Kardama was not supposed to offer obeisances because his position was actually greater. But still he offered. Why? Because Manu was king and emperor. And but he was representative of the Supreme Lord because he was Naradeva. See, even if you see the word Manu, actually in India, if you say we are followers of Manu Shastra, we follow Manu Samhita, people will actually insult us. Why? Because there are some strong statements which are not culturally acceptable today in India and across the globe, of course. So therefore, when all these Manu Shastras, see in the Vedic scripture it is said, by definition or by definition, actually we are all called as Jantu, means living entities. So a dog is a Jantu, I am a Jantu, a cat is a Jantu, a tree is a Jantu, we are all Jantus. We are not considered anything special. But when we follow the rules and regulations given in Manu Shastras, it is said that is the time we become Manushya, man. That time we consider to be human beings. Otherwise, we are not considered to be human beings. So, of course, Swambhu Manu. So Manu has a great position, and he himself is a king and emperor, and this is most important aspect of being a leader. And therefore, Kardama was offering respects to Swambhu Manu. Why? Because he was a devotee leader. He was a leader, but he was a leader Prabhu. He was a leader who was following the instructions of the Shastras. Yes, Shastram vidimutsrijya vartate kamakarataha nasa siddhim avapnoti na sukham na param gatim. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells in the 16th chapter to Arjuna, my dear Arjuna, please be very careful not to reject the Shastras. Because if you reject the Shastras, what will happen? You will not get happiness, nor will you get perfection of life, nor will you get the ultimate destination. So therefore, as Yadyad Achati Shreshtas Tattat Devetra Janaha, as the leaders set example in society, so it's a must that leaders are the ones who are supposed to very well follow and emulate the instructions of the Shastras in their lives. Because if the leader doesn't do it, then the whole praja won't also be doing it. And therefore we can understand the character of King Parikshit. When King Parikshit came across Kali and he saw Kali butchering the bull's legs, He immediately caught hold of the collar of Kali and was about to kill him with his sword. But Kali begged forgiveness and he asked, "My dear Parikshit, this is my time to shine. This is the Kali Yuga. So please consider me also to be one of your praja and give me a place in any part of your kingdom because I am also your praja." So then King Parikshit said that, okay, since you are part of my praja, you can stay in those places where there is no intoxication, no gambling, no illicit sex, and no meat eating. Dyutam panam sriyashuna yatra adharma chaturvidaha. That means these are the 4 pillars of sinful action. So you can stay in these places, Kali. But Kali said, "My dear king, you rule the world so well that there is not one place where these rules are being broken." So therefore, you can understand what is the character of King Parikshit, that when Kali wanted to find a place to reside in any of these places where these 4 sinful actions are being committed, he couldn't find one place in the entire world. Now it's very difficult to find a place where these are not being broken, isn't it? So this is, so much is attributed to the leadership. Srila Prabhupada once said, do you know why still, even though there's so many sinful activities being carried on, still this world is going on? Do you know why? And the disciples couldn't answer. And Srila Prabhupada said, it's because there's still some devotees chanting Hare Krishna. Therefore nature is still producing. Otherwise the nature will withdraw and won't produce. Like nowadays we see, in Vedic times, in Krishna time, we read in Krishna book, the cow used to, while grazing, she would actually moisten the ground with her milk. The desi cows. But today, because they don't take care of the cows properly and because the Kali Yuga influence is growing, now the cows only produce 2-liter milk. And now they cannot sell this 2-liter milk, in mass production, they cannot do it. So what happens? They actually, as soon as the cow is, either they resort to the A1 milk, which is carcinogenic, which is not produced by the Jersey, by the desi cows. So any other milk is called as A1 milk, which is cancer producing. So either they resort to that, or sometimes they mix with other animals' milk like goat or buffalo, and they call it cow milk. Or they mistreat desi cows. The cows which are dear to Krishna, they actually mistreat these cows. And they are just left to street. Once they stop producing any milk, they are left to the street to eat garbage, and oftentimes it is found they choke on garbage and die on the street. So therefore, when Kali Yuga influence grows more and more and more, as we'll see in 12th canto of Srimad Bhāgavatam, this is symptoms of age of Kali, then the piety reduces more and more. That means as Kali increases, even the nature withdraws her resources. Why does nature withdraws her resources? Anyone knows? As Kali influence increases, why is nature withdrawing? Okay, because we are harming the nature. Okay, but shouldn't nature be selfless? Yeah. No one is? No one is doing yajna to the demigods. Okay, thank you, that's a good answer also. Anything else? Okay, so why is, Srila Prabhupada said, whenever we talk of nature, the question we have to ask is, whose nature is it? Whom does nature, Mother Nature belong to? Krishna. Maya dakshena prakriti suyate sacharacharam hetu nanena kaunteya jagat viparivartate. Krishna says, under my supervision, Maya adhyakshena prakriti. Under my supervision, the prakriti is working. So therefore, as people become more and more godless and go in the opposite direction, Krishna vimukha. Vimukasya daivad, there's a verse like that. Krishna vimukasya daivad. The people have turned their face against Krishna. They're walking in the opposite direction. Because they walk in the opposite direction, therefore what they do is take resources of nature, which nature is providing abundantly, and they use it for, this is the highlight point, they use it for sense gratification. They don't use it for Krishna's service. So sometimes a watermelon plant is there, or tree, produces a watermelon. Do you know why does a watermelon tree produce a watermelon? But, huh? Because Krishna said so. Okay, but why does it produce? Okay. Okay, what is the purpose of that watermelon? I'm not asking from cause point of view, I'm pointing. Yeah, Krishna likes watermelon. So therefore, the watermelon tree is producing watermelon so that it can be offered to Krishna. Why? Because Mother Nature is Krishna's servant. She is Krishna Dasi. She is not our Dasi. Because Mother Nature is Krishna Dasi, whatever she produces is meant to be offered to Krishna. This is the yajna cycle. This is the purpose of yajna, sacrifice. So when the godless people, they actually take from nature and don't offer it to Krishna back, then Mother Nature thinks, I'm giving so many resources, but these foolish people, they're taking from me, but they are not giving to my Supreme Lord, for whose pleasure I'm producing. So therefore she starts withdrawing. So the watermelon tree plant is giving out watermelon, thinking some devotee will come and offer it to Krishna. Then we come in between and say, oh, such a nice watermelon, let me enjoy it. Then it feels very sad. Isn't it? So therefore, we can understand how nature is not just dead matter. Albert Einstein actually said, it's recorded elsewhere. He said, actually, I believe in a God of Spinoza. Spinoza was a philosopher who said that nature itself is God. Yeah, nature itself appears to be God because it is very active. So therefore, one can actually, if one is observant and has good consciousness, he can actually see the active principle in material nature because it's Krishna's nature. So therefore, the whole point of a leader is to set the right example so that the whole praja, just like Parikshit, the whole praja, no one breaks the four regular principles. They are becoming devotees of the Supreme Lord, and at the end of this life, they can go back home, back to Godhead. This is a real leader. Therefore, he is called as Raja Rishi. He is a king, but because he is being guided by Vaishnavas or Brahmanas, who base their conclusions on the scriptures, because he is being guided by them, he is called Raja Rishi. He is a saintly king. He is no more a king who has power and who can actually torment the living entities, like what Vena did. What would Vena do for fun when he would play with his schoolmates? Yeah, if he would lose or if there was a quarrel, he would take out a sword and kill them. This is King Vena. And unfortunately, when King Anga understood that my dear son is not, he cannot be changed, he took it to be Krishna's mercy and took it as an opportunity for him to retire to the forest to become, perfect his life. But then what happened? The Brahmana community saw that there is no leader. So then when they saw there is no leader, they thought, okay, let us make Vena the king. But unfortunately, Vena was a rascal, a fool. He would actually stop the Brahmanas from performing any yajna. He was actually against. He actually, in one verse, in 4th canto, it says, he told everyone that consider and worship me only to be the Supreme Lord, Vena said. So the Brahmanas tried correcting him with good words, with polite words, but then he would not listen to the Brahmanas. So because he actually infuriated the Brahmanas, holding their Brahmagant on their sacred thread with the humkara, with that humkara they actually destroyed Vena. And from after churning his thigh comes King Prithu. So therefore we can easily see from these pastimes, from these, from arm, okay, from arm. Sure, yeah. So therefore we can see from these pastimes that the Brahmanical class and the Kshatriya class are supposed to work. Why just both of them? Even the Vaishya class and Shudra class and so on and so forth. Kirata, Hunanda, Pulinda, Pulkesha, Abhira, Shubha, Yavana, Kashadya. All the 5th and 6th and all classes, Prabhupada said. So all these classes are supposed to work together for one goal, and that is propagating the Krishna consciousness. That's all. Then the Varnas it makes no difference. The difference in India also today, it has become, the caste system becomes very prominent. But why? Because the science is lost. Because Krishna is in the background. But actually the purpose of the entire Varnashrama system is to become God conscious. If that is lost, then the caste system itself can become a thorn, it can become a problem in society, a thorn in the society. So, therefore, Kardama and we heard Kardama Muni glorifying Swambhuv Manu, and now we find Swambhuv Manu so beautifully. I mean, of course, we heard Swambhuv Manu glorifying Kardama, and now we see Kardama glorifying Swambhuv Manu with no sense of pride, with all sense of appreciation. And it can also give us one more point, that we also can respect all the other Vaishnavas beyond their caste, creed, color, race, which country they come from, because bhakti is for all. Recently, I just heard actually the karma yoga and jnana yoga, as mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, cannot actually elevate. It has boundaries. Any yoga system other than bhakti yoga has boundaries. Like a person like Mrigari, you tell him karma yoga, very difficult. You tell him jnana yoga, very difficult. Why? Because sometimes they can do, but purification of heart may be a questionable thing. Therefore, in 3rd chapter, Krishna tells Arjuna, what is that? He says, what is the use of such repression? Anyone knows? What is the verse? 333, Bhagavad Gita. He says that, because before just talking about lust, there are so many propensities. Basically, he's telling that, what is it? Yeah, what will repression accomplish, he says. So therefore, on that shloka, when I was doing one course, so the teacher was saying that actually, though it is said what will repression accomplish, that is said because no other yoga system can help sometimes, other than Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga can elevate a person from the deepest modes, deepest and the lowest modes, or deepest of the lowest modes. Bhakti Yoga has that potency. So then the real question comes, sometimes even after spending a lot of time, we may think, Prabhu, why is my heart not so clean yet? I've spent 15 years in the movement. I've spent 25 years in the movement, but I still have lust in the heart. Well, the question comes, what are we? No, the question comes that bhakti actually is completely potent. So the real question is, am I taking shelter of the bhakti process? That's the real question. So if we actually take shelter of bhakti process, Mrigari, the hunter, the cruel hunter who would torment the animals by half killing them and relish in their suffering, became Mrigari Prabhu later on. So that's bhakti process. Ratnakar, the hunter, became Valmiki by the chanting of name of Lord Ram. So therefore the potency of bhakti process is inconceivable by our limited minds. So therefore, even if we get some doubts, it seemingly is that we are not able to find bhakti process working for us, in different case scenarios. The real question is, how much am I taking shelter of the bhakti process? So therefore, in a Daivi Varnashrama system, in the modern day, what is most practical is keep bhakti in the forefront, keep Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Padsevanam, and so on and so forth as the main aspect. And whole whatever Varnashrama, the different Varnas, the different ashramas, the cooperation amongst them, everything will work out fine if bhakti is in the center, if Krishna is in the center. Remove Krishna from center, everyone is going to quarrel like cats and dogs. So therefore we see Swambhuv Manu and Kardama Muni having so much appreciation with complete humility. Amanena manadena they are doing here. Because they have kept Krishna in the center. Maybe I'll stop there if anyone has any comments or questions. Would you like to say anything, Maharaj?
One thing I found that was surprising to me in this verse today, I didn't know that Dharma was a demigod. I knew that Dharma was the process of following religious scriptures. But evidently, Dharma is also a demigod, a person. Do you know anything about Dharma?
Well, we find Yudhishthir. I mean, Yudhishthir is Dharmaraj, but
He's
we also find
Dharmaraj.
someone who is like son of Dharma. I've seen
Yeah,
some
he's
places.
son of Yamaraj, so he's
Yamaraj,
called
so,
Dharmaraj.
yes.
But it also mentions Yamaraj, so
Separately.
it's obviously a different person.
Uh,
I'll have to look that up in the
Yeah.
Puranic Encyclopedia to see what it says about Dharma. I'd never heard that he was a person before.
thanks.
Yeah, so I saw the thing about Einstein and Spinoza. It sounds contradictory to Vaishnavism, but on the surface, but I don't think it is. I'm curious what your insight is. And he says, I believe in Spinoza's God who reveals himself in the orderly harmony of what exists, not in a God who concerns himself with fates and actions of human beings. But
Yeah.
Krishna doesn't care either. It's just his Yamaraj who handles fates. So even then it still aligns with the Vaishnava philosophy, doesn't it?
Very true, yeah. Actually, similarly, you can find there are different philosophers. I think was his name Nietzsche or Nietzsche? Nietzsche?
Nietzsche.
Okay. Who said, he wrote on a church wall that, God is dead, hyphen, his name. Nietzsche or something. And then finally, when he died, someone else came and wrote, they scratched off God and wrote, Nietzsche is dead, hyphen God. But actually he had said, yeah.
Nietzsche made the statement, God is dead, but more recently somebody said Nietzsche is dead, God.
Yeah. Yes. So elsewhere they found actually Nietzsche actually said he believes in a God who dances. So unfortunately the other religious systems, they don't have much deeper conception of God. They only have the generator, operator, destroyer concept of God, the God God, which is like a very, like a dictator type of, Hitler type of God, which no one likes. So therefore, many of these philosophers, they do have some good insights. Unfortunately, they didn't come across Krishna consciousness.
Yeah, it's interesting. Nietzsche actually was, I think his big thing was, he was criticizing European morality. And I have to search the quote, but apparently he said the European concept of morality is bound to collapse, which I think America is the practical realization of that. When you look at sense gratification is just accepted, and even doctors are like pushing things that don't work, and then finding out 50 years later, hey, this doesn't work.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. The European philosophers came to a lot of the same conclusions, just not as detailed.
Very true.
That's my 2 cents. Haribol.
Okay. Thank you for all of you for your patience. Grantaraj Srimad Bhāgavatam ki, Shri Prabhupada ki, Itai Gaura Premanande.